Hello, my name is Chen Yiman. My student number is S0641050, and I'm going to read Emily Dickinson's poems. I never lost as much but twice. I never lost as much but twice, and that was in the thought. Twice have I stood a beggar before the door of God. Angels twice descending reimbursed my store. Burglar, banker, father, I'm poor once more. Success is counted sweetest. Success is counted sweetest, but those who never succeed to comprehend a nectar requires sorest need. No one of all the purple host who took the flag today can tell the definition so clear of victory as he defeated dying, on whose forbidden ear the distant strains of triumph burst agonized and clear. These are the days when birds come back. These are the days when birds come back. A very few, a bird or two, to take a backward look. These are the days when skies resume the old sophistries of June. A blue and gold mistake. Oh, fraud that cannot cheat the bee. Almost thy plausibility induces my belief, till ranks of seas their witness bear, and softly through the altered air hurries a timid leaf. O sacrament of summer days! Oh, lest communion in the haze permit a child to join, thy sacred emblems to partake, thy consecrated bread to take, and thine immortal wine. Faith is a fine invention. Faith is a fine invention for gentlemen who see, but microscopes are prudent in an emergency. I taste a liquor never brewed. I taste a liquor never brewed from tankards scooped in pearl. Not all the Frankfort berries yield such an alcohol. Inebriate of air am I, and debauchee of dew, reeling through endless summer days from inns of molten blue, when landlords turn the drunken bee out of the foxglove store, when butterflies renounce their dreams, I shall but drink the more, till seraphs swing their snowy hats, and saints to windows run, to see the little tippler leaning against the sun. I'm nobody, who are you? I'm nobody, who are you? Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us, don't tell. They'd advertise, you know. How dreary to be somebody, how public like a frog, to tell one's name the lifelong June to an admiring bug. Wild nights, wild nights, wild nights, wild nights, were I with thee, wild nights should be our luxury. Futile the winds to a heart in port, done with the compass, done with the chart, rowing in Eden, ah, the sea, might I but moor tonight in thee. There's a certain slant of light, there's a certain slant of light, winter afternoons, that oppresses like the heft of cathedral tunes. Heavenly hurt it gives us, we can find no scar, but internal difference where the meanings are. None may teach it any, 'tis the sealed despair, an imperial affliction sent us of the air. When it comes, the landscape listens, shadows hold their breath. When it goes, these like the distance, on the look of death. I like a look of agony. I like a look of agony, because I know it's true. Men do not shame convulsion, nor simulate a throe. The eyes glaze once, and that is death, impossible to feign. The beads upon the forehead, by homely anguish strung. I felt a funeral in my brain. I felt a funeral in my brain, and mourners to and fro kept treading till it seemed that sense was breaking through. And when they all were seated, a service like a drum kept beating till I thought my mind was going numb. And then I heard them lift the box and creak across my soul with those same boots of lead again. Then space began to toll, as all the heavens were a bell, and being but an ear, and I, and silence, some strange race, wrecked it, solitary here. And then a plank in reason broke, and I dropped down, and hit the world at every plunge, and finished knowing then it was not death, for I stood up. It was not death, for I stood up, and all the dead lie down. It was not night, for all the bells but put out their tongues for noon. It was not frost, for on my flesh I feel Syracuse crow, nor fire, for just my marble feet could keep a chancel cool. And yet it tasted like them all. The figures I have seen, set orderly for burial, reminded me of mine, as if my life were shaven and fitted to a frame, and could not breathe without the key. And that was like midnight sun, when everything that ticket has stopped, and space stares all around, or grisly frost, first autumn morns, repeal the beating ground, but most like chaos, stopless, cool, without a chance or spar, or even a report of land to justify despair. A bird came down the walk. He didn't know I saw. He bit an angleworm in halves and ate the fellow raw, and then he drank a dew from a convenient grass, and then hopped sidewise to the wall to let a beetle pass. He glanced with rapid eyes that hurried all abroad. They looked like frightened beads, I thought. He stirred his velvet head, like one in danger, cautious. I offered him a crumb, and he unrolled his feathers and rowed him softer home. Then oars divided the ocean, to silver for a seam, or butterflies of banks of noon leap plashless as they swim. I know that he exists. Somewhere in silence. He was hid his rare life from our gross eyes. This an instant's play, this a found ambush, just to make bliss earn her own surprise. But should the play prove piercing earnest, should the glee glaze in death's stiff stare, would not the fun look too expensive? Would not the jest have crawled too far? After great pain, a formal feeling comes. The nerves sit ceremonious like tombs. The stiff heart questions, was it he that bore? And yesterday, or centuries before, the feet, mechanical, go around a wooden way of ground or air or aught, regardless ground. A quartz containment like a stone. This is the hour of lead, remembered if outlived, as freezing persons recollect the snow, first chill, then stupor, then the letting go. The soul selects her own society. Then shuts the door. To her divine majority, present no more. Unmoved, she notes the chariots pulsing at her low gate, unmoved, an emperor be kneeling upon her mat. I've known her from an ample nation choose one, then close the valves of her attention like stone. I died for beauty, but was scarce. I died for beauty, but was scarce, just in the tomb, when one who died for truth was lain in an adjoining room. He questioned softly why I failed. For beauty, I replied, and I for truth. Themselves are one. We brethren are, he said. And so, as kinsmen, Madam Knight, we talked between the rooms until the moss had reached our lips and covered up our names. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too, for his civility. We passed the school where children strove at races in the ring. We passed the fields of gazing grain. We passed the setting sun, or rather he passed us. The dews drew, quivering and chill, for only gossamer, my gun, my tippet only tulle. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then, these centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horse's head were toward eternity. This is my letter to the world. This is my letter to the world that never wrote to me the simple news that nature told with tender majesty. Her message is committed to hands I cannot see. For love of her, sweet countrymen, judge tenderly of me. I heard a fly buzz when I died. The stillness in the room was like the stillness in the air between the heaves of storm. The ice around had run them dry, and breath were gathering firm for that last onset. When the king be witnessed in the room, I willed my keepsakes signed away. What portion of me be assignable? And then it was, then there interposed a fly with blue uncertain stumbling buzz between the light and me, and then the windows failed, and then I could not see to see. The brain is wider than the sky. The brain is wider than the sky, for put them side by side. The other will contain with ease, and you beside. The brain is deeper than the sea, for hold them blue to blue. The one the other will absorb, as sponges buckets too. The brain is just the weight of God, for have them, pound for pound, and they will differ, if they do, a syllable from sound. Much madness is divinest sense. Much madness is divinest sense to a discerning eye. Much sense, the starkest madness. This the majority. In this, as so, prevail, assent, and you are sane. Demur, you are straightway dangerous, and handle with a chain. I started early, took my dog, and visited the sea. The mermaids in the basement came out to look at me, and frigates in the upper floor extended hempen hands, presuming me to be a mouse aground, opened the sands. But no man moved me till the tide went past my simple shoe, and past my apron and my belt, and past my bodice too, and made as he would eat me up, as wholly as a dew, opened a dandelion sleeve, and then I started too, and he followed close behind. I felt his silver heel, opened my ankle, then my shoes would overflow with pearl. until we met the solid town. No one he seemed to know, and bowing with a mighty look at me, the sea withdrew. Pain has an element of blank. Pain has an element of blank. It cannot recollect when it began, or if there were a time when it was not. It has no future but itself. Its infinite contained, its past enlightened to perceive new periods of pain. My life has stood a loaded gun. My life has stood a loaded gun in corners till a day. The owner passed, identified, and carried me away. And now we roam in sovereign woods. And now we hunt the doe. And every time I speak for him, the mountains straight reply. And do I smile? Such cordial light open the valley glow. It is as a Vesuvian face had let its pleasure through. And when at night our good day done, I guard my master's head, this better than the eider ducks, deep pillow to have shared. To fall of his deadly fall, none stirred the second time, on whom I lay a yellow eye, or an emphatic thumb. Publication is the auction. Publication is the auction of the mind of man. Poverty be justifying for so full a thing, possibly, but we would rather from our garret go, white, unto the white Creator, than invest our snow. Thought belonged to him who gave it, then to him who bare. Its corporeal illustration, sell the royal air. In the parcel be the merchant of the heavenly grace, but reduce no human spirit to disgrace of price. A narrow fellow in the grass, occasionally rides. You may have met him, did you not? His notice instant is. The grass divides us with a comb. A spotted shaft is seen, and then it closes at your feet and opens further on. He likes a boggy acre, a floor too cool for corn. But when a boy and barefoot, I more than once at noon have passed, I thought a whiplash, upbraiding in the sun. When stooping to secure it, it wrinkled and was gone. Several of nature's people I know, and they know me. I feel for them a transport of cordiality, but never met this fellow, attended or alone, without a tighter breathing and zero at the bone. The Bible is an antique volume. The Bible is an antique volume written by faded men at the suggestion of holy spectres. Subjects: Bethlehem, Eden, the ancient homestead, Satan, the brigadier, Judas, the great defaulter, David, the troubadour, Sin, a distinguished precipice. Others must resist. Boys that believe are very lonesome. Other boys are lost, had but the tale of warbling teller. All the boys would come. Orpheus' sermon captivated. It did not condemn. My life closed twice before its close. My life closed twice before its close. It yet remains to see, if immortality unveil, a third event to me, so huge, so hopeless to conceive, as these that twice before. Parting is all we know of heaven, and all we need of hell. When I was small, a woman died. When I was small, a woman died. Today, her only boy went up from the Potomac, his face all victory. To look at her, how slowly the seasons must have turned, till bullets clipped an angle, and he passed quickly round. If pride shall be in paradise, ourselves cannot decide of their imperial conduct. No person testified, but proud in apparition. That woman and her boy passed back and forth before my brain, as even in the sky. I'm confident that bravos perpetual break abroad, for braveries remote as this in scarred Maryland. And I'm going to read some of both women's poem. Song of myself. I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume you shall assume, for every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. I love and invite my soul. I lean and loaf at my ease, observing a spear of summer grass. My tongue, every atom of my blood, formed from this soil, this air, born here of parents born here, from parents the same, and their parents the same. I, now 37 years old, in perfect health begin, hoping to cease not till death, creeds and schools in abeyance, retiring back a while sufficed at what they are, but never forgotten. I harbored for good or bad, I permit to speak at every hazard. Nature without check with original energy. Houses and rooms are full of perfumes. The shelves are crowded with perfumes. I breathe the fragrance myself and know it and like it. The distillation would intoxicate me also, but I shall not let it. The atmosphere is not a perfume. It has no taste of the distillation. It is odorless. It is for my mouth forever. I'm in love with it. I will go to the bank by the wood and become undisguised and naked. I am mad for it to be in contact with me. The smoke of my own breath echoes, ripples, buzzed, whispers, love root, silk thread, crotch, and vine. My respiration and inspiration, the beating of my heart, the passing of blood and air through my lungs, the sniff of green leaves and dry leaves, and of the shore and dark-colored sea rocks, and of hay in the barn, the sound of the belched words of my voice, loosed to the eddies of the wind, a few light kisses, a few embraces, a reaching around of arms, the play of shine and shade on the trees as the supple boughs wag, the delight alone or in the rush of the streets, or along the fields and hillsides, the feeling of health, the full noon trio, the song of me rising from bed and meeting the sun. Have you reckoned 1,000 acres much? Have you reckoned the earth much? Have you practiced so long to learn to read? Have you felt so proud to get at the meaning of poems? Stop this day and night with me, and you shall possess the origin of all poems. You shall possess the good of the earth and sun. There are millions of suns left. You shall no longer take things at second or third hand, nor look through the eyes of the dead, nor feed on the spectres in books. You shall not look through my eyes either, nor take things from me. You shall listen to all sides and filter them from yourself. I had heard what the talkers were talking, the talk of the beginning and the end, but I do not talk of the beginning or the end. There was never any more inception than there is now, nor any more youth or age than there is now, and will never be any more perfection than there is now, nor any more heaven or hell than there is now. Urge and urge and urge, always the procreant urge of the world. Out of the dimness, opposite equals advance, always substance and increase, always sex. always a need of identity, always distinction, always a breed of life. To elaborate is no avail. Learned and unlearned feel that it is so. Sure as the most certain sure, plump in the uprights, well entreated, braced in the beams, stood as a horse, affectionate, haughty, electrical. I and this mystery here we stand. Clear and sweet it's my soul, and clear and sweet is all that is not my soul. Like one lacks both. And this unseen is proved by the seen, till that becomes unseen and receives proof in its turn. Showing the best and dividing it from the worst age vexes age, knowing the perfect fitness and equanimity of things. While they discuss, I am silent and go bath and admire myself. Welcome is every organ and attribute of me, and of any man hearty and clean. Nor an inch nor a particle of an inch is vile, and none shall be less familiar than the rest. I'm satisfied, I see, dance, laugh, think. As the hugging and loving bedfellow sleeps at my side through the night, and withdraws at the peep of the day with stealthy tread, leaving me basket covered with the white towels swelling the house with their plenty. Shall I postpone my acceptation and realization and scream at my eyes that they turn from gazing after and down the road, and forthwith cipher and show me to assent exactly the value of one and exactly the value of two, and which is ahead. Trippers and askers surround me. People I met, the effect upon me of my early life or the world and city I live in or the nation. The latest dates, discoveries, inventions, societies, authors, old and new. My dinner dress, associates, looks, compliments, dues. The real or fancied indifference of some man or woman I love, the sickness of one of my folks or of myself, or ill-doing or loss or lack, the sickness of one of my folks or of myself, of money or depressions or exaltations, battles, the horrors of fratricidal war, the fever of doubtful news, the fitful events. These come to me days and nights and go from me again, but they are not the me myself. Apart from the pulling and hauling stands what I am, stands assumed, complacent, compassionating, idle, unitary, looks down, is erect, or bends an arm on an impalpable, certain rest, looking with side-curved head, curious what will come next, both in and out of the game, and watching and wondering at it. Backward I see in my own days, where I sweated through fog with linguists and contenders. I have no mockings or arguments. I witness and wait. I believe in you, my soul. The other eye must not abase itself to you, and you must not be abased to the other. Love with me on the grass, loose the stop from your throat. Not words, not music or rhyme I want, not custom or lecture, not even the best. Only the low I like, the hum of our veiled voice. I mind how once we lay such a transparent summer morning, how you settled your head athwart my hips and gently turned over upon me, and parted the shirt from my bosom bone, and plunged your tongue to my bare stripped heart, and reached till you felt my beard, and reached till you felt my feet. Swiftly aroused and spread around me the peace and knowledge that pass all the argument of the earth. And I know that the hand of God is the promise of my own, and I know that the Spirit of God is the brother of my own, and that all the men were ever born are also my brothers, and the women my sisters and lovers, and that a kelson of the creation is love, and lemoners are leaves stiff or drooping in the fields, and brown ants in the little wells beneath them, and mossy scabs of the worm fence, heaped stones, elder, mullein, and pokeweed. A child said, "What is the grass?" fetching it to me with full hands. How could I answer the child? I do not know what is any more than he. I guess it must be the flag of my disposition, out of hopeful green stuff woven, or I guess it is the handkerchief of the Lord, a scented gift and remembrancer, designedly dropped, bearing the owner's name some way in the corners, that we may see and remark, and say whose. Or I guess the grass is itself a child, the produced babe of the vegetation. Or I guess it is a uniform hieroglyphic, and it means sprouting alike in broad zones and narrow zones, growing among black folks as among white. Canuck, Tuckahoe, Congressman, Cuff. I give them the same. I receive them the same. And now it seems to me the beautiful uncut hair of grapes. Tenderly will I use your curling grass. It may be your transpire from the breast of young men. It may be if I had known them I would have loved them. It may be you are from old people, or from offspring taken soon out of their mother's laps. And here you are the mother's laps. This grass is very dark to be from the white heads of old mothers, darker than the colorless beard of old men, dark to come from under the faint red roofs of mouth. Oh, I perceive after all so many uttering tongues, and I perceive they do not come from the roofs of mouth for nothing. I wish I could translate the hints about the dead young men and women, and the hints about old men and mothers, and the offspring taken soon out of their laps. What do you think has become of the young and old men, and what do you think has become of the men and children? They are alive and well somewhere. The smallest sprout shows there is really no death. And if ever there was it, that forward life, and does not wait at the end to arrest it, and ceased the moment life appeared. All goes onward and outward. Nothing collapses. And to die is different from what anyone supposed, and luckier. Has anyone supposed it lucky to be born? I hasten to inform him or her it is just as lucky to die. And I know it. I pass death with the dying and birth with the new washed babe, and am not contained between my head and boots, and pursue manifold objects, no two alike and every one good. The earth good and the stars good, and they're a just all good. I'm not an earth nor an adjunct of an earth. I'm the mate and companion of people, all just as immortal and fathomless as myself. They do not know how immortal, but I know. Every kind for itself and its own. For me, my male and female. For me, those that have been boys and that love women. For me, the man that is proud and feels healthy strings to be slighted. For me, the sweetheart and the old maid. For me, mothers and the mothers of mothers. For me, lips that have smiled, eyes that have shed tears. For me, children and the actors of children. Undraped, you are not guilty to me, nor stale, nor discarded. I see through the broadcloth and gingham, whether or no, and am around, tenacious, acquisitive, tireless, and cannot be shaken away. The little one sleeps in its cradle. I lift the gauze and look a long time, and silently brush away flies with my hand. The youngster and the red-faced girl turned aside up the bushy hill. I peeringly viewed them from the top. The suicide prose on the bloody floor of the bedroom. I witnessed the corpse with its battered hair. I note where the pistol has fallen. The blab of the pave, tires of carts, slough of boot soles, talk of the promenaders. The heavy omnibus, the driver with his interrogating thumb, the clank of the shod horses on the granite floor, the snow sleighs, clicking, shouted jokes, pails of snowballs, the hurry for popular favorites, the flurry of roused mobs, the flap of the curtained litter, a sick man inside borne to the hospital, the meeting of the enemies, the sudden oath, the blows and fall, the excited crowd, the policeman with his star quickly working his passage to the center of the crowd. The impassive stones that receive and return so many echoes. What groans of overfed or half-starved who fall sunstruck of in fits. What exclamations of women taken suddenly who hurry home and give birth to babes. What living and buried speech is always vibrating here. What halls restrained by decorum, arrests of criminals, slights, adulterers, offers made, acceptance, rejections with convex lips. I mind them or the show or resonance of them. I come and I depart. The big doors of the country barn stand open and ready. The dried grass of the harvest time loads the slow-drawn wagon. The clear light plays on the brown, gray, and green interrotinde. The armfuls are packed to the sagging mow. I'm there, I help. I came stretched atop of the load. I felt its soft jolts, one leg reclined on the other. I jumped from the crossbeams and seized the clover intimately. And rolled head over heels and tangled my head full of wisps. Alone far in the wilds and mountains I hunt, wondering amazed at my own likeness and glee. In the late afternoon choosing a safe spot to pass the night, kindling a fire and broiling the fresh-killed game, falling asleep on the gathered leaves with my dog and gun by my side. The Yankee Clipper is under her sky sails. She cuts the sparkle and scud. My eyes settle the land. I bend at her prow or shout joyously from the deck. The boatmen and calm diggers aroused early and stopped for me. I tucked my trouser ends in my boots and went and had a good time. You should have been with us that day around the shoulder cattle. I saw the marriage of the trapper in the open air in the far west, The bride was a red girl. Her father and his friends sat near a cross-legged and dumbly smoking. They had moccasins to their feet and large thick blankets hanging from their shoulders. On the bank lounged the trapper. He was dressed mostly in skins. His luxuriant beard and curls protected his neck. He held his bride by the hand. She had long eyelashes. Her head was bare. Her coarse, straight locks descended upon her voluptuous limbs and reached to her feet. The runaway slave came to my house and stopped outside. I heard his motions crackling the twigs of the wood pile. Through the swung half-door of the kitchen I saw him lipsy and weak, and went where he sat on a log and led him in and assured him, and brought water and filled a tub for his sweated body and bruised feet, and gave him a room that entered from my own, and gave him some coarse clean cloth, and remember perfectly well his revolving eyes and his awkwardness, and remember putting plasters on the gauze of his neck and ankles. He stayed with me a week before he was recuperated and passed north. I had him sit next me at table. My firelock leaned in the corner. 28 young men bathed by the shore. 28 young men, and all so friendly. 28 years of womanly life, and all so lonesome. She owns the fine house by the rise of the blank. She hides handsome and richly dressed aft the blinds of the window. Which of the young men does she like the best? All the homeliest of them is beautiful to her. Where are you off to, lady? For I see you. You splash in the water there, yet stay stock still in your room. Dancing and laughing along the beach came the 29th bather. The rest did not see her, but she saw them and loved them. The beards of the young men glistened with wet. It rained from their long hair. Little streams passed over their bodies. An unseen hand also passed over their bodies. It descended tremblingly from their temples and ribs. The young men float on their backs, their white bellies bulge to the sun. They do not ask who sees fast to them. They do not know who puffs and declines with pendant and bending arch. They do not think whom they soothe with spray. The butcher boy puts off his killing clothes, or sharpens his knife. At the stall in the market, I loiter, enjoying his repartee and his shuffle and breakdown. Blacksmith with grim and hairy chest, Averon and Envale. Each has his main sledge. They are all out. There is a great heat in the fire. From the cinder-stewed threshold I follow their movements. The lithe sheer of their waist plays even with their massive arms. Overhand and the hammer swing. Overhand so slow, overhand so sure. They do not hasten. Each man heeds in his place. The Negro holds firmly the reins of his 4 horses. The block swags underneath on its tied-over chain. The Negro head that drives the long dray of the stone yard. Steady and tall, he stands poised on one leg on the spring piece. His blue shirt exposes his ample neck and breast and loosens over his hip hand. His glance is calm and commanding. He tosses the slouch of his head away from his forehead. The sun falls on his crispy hair and mustache, falls on the black on his polished and perfect limbs. I behold the picture's giant and love him, and I do not stop there. I go with the team also. In me the character of life, wherever moving, backward as well as forward slewing, to niche aside and junior bending, not a person or object missing, absorbing all to myself, and for this song, oxen that rattle the yoke and chain or halt in the leafy shade. What is that you express in your eyes? It seems to me more than all the print I have read in my life. My tread scares the wood drake and wood duck on my distant and day-long ramble. They rise together, they slowly circle around. I believe in those winged purposes, and acknowledge red, yellow, white playing within me, and consider green and violet and the tufted crown intentional, and do not call the tortoise unworthy because she is not something else, and the jay in the woods never studied the gamut, yet trills pretty well to me. And the look of the bay mare shames silliness out of me. The wild gander leads his flock through the cool night. Yahan, he says, and sound it down to me like an invitation. The bird may suppose it meaningless, but I listen close, find its purpose, and place up there toward the wintry sky. The sharp-hoofed moose of the north, the cat on the house still, the chickadee, the praise dog, the litter of the grunting soul as they tug at her teats, the brood of the turkey hen, and she with her half-spread wings. I see in them and myself the same old law. The press of my foot to the earth springs 100 affections. They scorn the best I can do to relate them. I am enamored of growing outdoors, of men that live among cattle, or taste of the ocean or woods, of the builders and steers of ships, and the wielders of axe and moss, and the drivers of horses. I can eat and sleep with them, week in and week out. What is the commonest, cheapest, nearest, easiest is me. Me going in for my chances, spending for vast returns, adoring myself to bestow myself on the first that will take me, not asking the sky to come down to my goodwill, scattering it freely forever. The pure contralto sings in the organ loft. The carpenter dresses his plank. The tongue of his foreplane whistles its while ascending list. The married and unmarried child ride to their Thanksgiving dinner. The pilot sees the kingpin he heaves down with a strong arm. The mate stands braced in the whale boat. Lance and harpoon are ready. The duck shooter walks by, silent and cautious stretches. The deacons are ordained with crossed hands at the altar. The spinning girl retreats and advances to the hum of the big wheel. The farmer stops by the bars as he walks on first day loaf and looks at the oats and rye. The lunatic is carried at last to the asylum, a confirmed case. He will never sleep any more as he did in the cot in his mother's bedroom. The drawer printer with gray head and gaunt jaws works at his case. He turns his quid of tobacco while his eyes blur with the manuscript. The malformed limbs are tied to the surgeon table. What is removed dropped horribly in the pail. The quadroon girl is sold at the auction stand. The drunken nods by the barroom stove. The machinist rolls up his sleeves. The policeman travels his beat. The gatekeeper marks who pass. A young fellow drives the express wagon. I have breed straps on his light boots to compete in the race. The western turkey shooting drills. Old men and young. Some lean on her rifles, some sit on logs. Out from the crowd steps the marksman, takes his position, levels his piece.